Hi, I want to give a little bit of an overview of how to do the summary papers. Before we do it, you have a write-up, and I think you should take some time to read that. I'll show that here in a second. But I want to, before I begin, like kind of going through and just kind of looking at the folder and everything, I want to make note of the fact that the reason the paper is set up this way is you pick a topic, and you're going to find an article that's sort of one side, and then if you do, like, say, abortion, you're going to do Charles Thompson article, and then you would do Don Marquis article on the other side. And so the idea there is you're kind of getting a pro and a con. And the summary, you're simply taking the article that you read and summarizing it. You're not giving your opinion. You're not saying why they're wrong, why they're right. You're not adding in your own little 2 cents on what you think about the article. You are merely summarizing the article. The rationale for that is that before you can really develop your own arguments, you really should be able to recount others. If you can't recount somebody else's and get the nuances and get all the pieces right, then, why do we have expectation that we would be able to do something we can't just simply mimic somebody else doing? And so the first part is just learning to kind of mimic, go through and summarize, and then to do the other part. The last part of the paper is the analysis. And the analysis is asking you, what do you think the author did right? What do you think the author did wrong? Why, etc. Now, what happens is the analysis needs to focus on, to begin with, what did they do right? What did they do wrong? Is you are going to try to give, like, instead of just saying really briefly, like, I thought they did a great job, I liked it, blah, blah, blah. You're going to give very specific things. Try to come up with 2 to 3 specific things that you think they did well or you think they did wrong. Now, there's probably 3 different ways you can do this. One is what most of you are used to in a class, in your classes, which is giving kind of just a reflection. And a reflection is where you say, well, I liked what they said. I thought it was really interesting. I really, thought this was great. It reminds me of my own experience. It reminds me of my own upbringing, that kind of thing, where it's very much a personal reflection. It's saying how you felt, how you thought, what you did. Analysis. The other option is sometimes people will go in and they'll say, I didn't like the way they wrote this. I didn't like the examples they used. I thought their analogy was weak. I thought their writing was hard to follow, etc. That's probably more of a write-up about their writing versus about their argument. What we're doing in philosophy is we want to look specifically at how they argue. And so the type of analysis we're doing is we're saying, okay, you just read this argument. Now tell me why you think they're right, why you think they're wrong, what about their argument is good or bad, regardless of whether or not you like their writing, regardless of whether or not you think they used good grammar or good examples, or you thought they should have, they talked too much about things or used too many counter examples. I don't care. That's about writing. That's about style. That's not about their argument. Instead, what you want to say is you want to say, well, when the author says, let's take as an example, well, like the first one is abortion. You might say, well, I really like the violinist analogy, but I think that it's not fair to analogize a violinist to a baby. And you might explain why. Now, I don't know that that's a problem with the way she frames it, but that might be your issue. And so you're trying to find a very specific thing. And if you agree with them, you should say, well, I agree with them, and I think they could have gone further on this point in this way. And so that's what you're doing, is you're trying to find specific things that you like, or not like, or just like you find right or wrong. And the way usually I encourage you to find those things is to read it and go, like, when things just don't click and you go, I don't buy this. I don't think what they're saying is right. Why is it? What would you say? How would you argue with them? And you're trying to argue with their argument itself, not their writing style, not just a reflection of it. You're looking at how they made their argument. Now, I'm going to quickly just share my screen, and I'm going to walk through this. So here we are at summary papers. What you'll find is that this is just kind of the outcomes. The video is in here, and then the instructions are here, and that goes through what I just told you. But it also has links to all the articles. So if you want to go to one of the articles, you can just click the links. And the idea is if you read Judith Jarvis Thompson's Defense of Abortion, then you're going to read Don Marquis' Why Abortion is Wrong. If you choose James Rachel's Active and Passive Euthanasia, then you got to read Against Euthanasia by Rex Tadiadhar. And if you read Martha Nussbaum's Whether from Reason or Prejudice, Taking Money for Bodily Services, which is about prostitution, then you've got to read Scott Anderson's Pro-Prostitution and Sexual Autonomy as a kind of a response on the other side. Same thing happens with Singer, Norcross, or Demetrio, that you've got to pick either this or those. Now, the only one that there's an exception is on the Singer one. I'll let you either read Narveson or the 3 refutations. I'll let you pick which one of those you respond. One thing to keep in mind when you read these, like if you look first to this article, what you might notice is you might say, okay, this starts on page 748 in this journal, and it goes all the way to page 780. So that's like, what, 32 pages. And you might say, well, that seems really long. Keep in mind that like here, this is all footnotes. Like everything below this point on this page is all a footnote. So it's not really key to the argument. It's kind of additional information. If you look here, he has a lot of footnotes. You know, usually these are about half pages. This is only like a 15, maybe a 10 or 15 page article. So it's not nearly as long as it might appear at first. I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a warning on some of these, but that's the way that works. They're also down here as well for the first one. And if you click on the ethical summary paper, it will give you a rubric I'll use on the first one, which will be, I don't have points assigned. I kind of use this as a guide to say what you did wrong. And then I'll create new rubrics for future ones based upon the idea being that this first one, you might have more grammar issues or more little issues like naming the author, or, you know, not summarizing it in the right way or not using paragraphs properly. But by the second paper, you will have read my comments and have avoided those problems. So what happens is you have the instructions link there and all the articles you can choose. And then if you come back, you know, you have paper 2 and you have the instructions I already showed you, and then you could link to each of those articles again. Okay. And then what happens is in one more place, like on the weeks that those papers are actually due. So let's see where the first summary paper is. I should have a link in here. I guess I haven't added it in, but I'll also add it into the module. It's also on the outcomes list for the module. So I'll add a summary paper link to this down there as well. And I think that's about it. As far as other questions people sometimes have is sometimes people say, do I need a works cited page? No, you know what it is. If you want to do a works cited page, you're welcome to do so. But as long as you do what we call in-source citation or in-text citation, where you just put, you put like, Peter Singer in his article, Famine, Affluence, and Morality says, and then from then on say, Singer says this, Singer says that, that's sufficient. You don't have to have, an actual work citation because I'm giving you the article. Okay, I think that's everything. I will add in everything else we need. This is up here at the top, so it's always there, and you'll go into the modules and they'll be down here, and the exam will be in there, and all that is all good. So if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to do that. I'm hoping these articles are, I got a few new topics that I'm hoping do well, that I have not used before, and I kind of created for that purpose, for this class. And, I'm hoping to develop this more. In the past, you would have bought a textbook so you could do these papers, and I felt like this was easier to add these articles online and save you the $70 for the textbook. All right, have a good one.